What is up, humans of the cardboard? Welcome back to Just Nuts, guys. Today we've got brand new reveals. These actually came out late last night. I was already tucked in snugly to bed when it got revealed. But we got 4 new cards for the Albaz structure deck. So 2 new trap cards and 2 new fusions. I have already given these cards a quick little read, but honestly, we're going to go over them again and just talk about what's going on here, because I think this is one of the more hyped structure decks. Because like when you have something like the Cyberdark structure deck coming, it really only helps Cyberdarks and like maybe Cyber Dragons, you could say. But this structure deck like could have more generic implications as far as making Albaz a more splashable card in certain decks and all of the Dogmatic lore archetypes potentially. So let's get into it. So starting off here, we have our first trap called Branded Blade. It's another branded card, so keep that in mind, that branded are searchable. The spells and traps. It's a normal trap card. You can only use both of its effects hard once per... Oh, I'm sorry. You can only use the first and second effect. You can only use one once per turn and only once per turn. So you can't use both in the same turn, but that's fine. The first effect reads, banish any number of branded spell or traps from your graveyard as cost. Okay. To special summon that many Ice Blade tokens. Those are Dragon Dark level 8 tokens with 2,500 attack, 2,000 defense. So those are some beefy tokens, and it's any number up to the number of branded spells and traps you banish. So you could banish like 2 or 3, and that's already 7,500 damage on field. That's pretty crazy, actually. Okay, very cool. The second effect reads, you can banish this card from your graveyard, then target one of your banished Fallen of Albaz or monsters that specifically list that card in their text and add it to your hand. Interesting. It only adds a banished copy, not from grave. So kind of interesting, but kind of cool follow-up, right? You can't use both in the same turn, but that's okay because it means you use the first effect on your opponent's turn to, I don't know, maybe set up the token so you can do a fusion on the opponent's turn into something powerful, or just to give yourself something just defensive, depending on how many branded spells and traps you throw into the grave, right? It could be just like an insane scapegoat, but the scapegoat tokens are beefy as fuck. I don't know, but very cool. And then the second effect, you just need to get stuff banished. That's really going to be the question there, but not bad. Definitely not bad. Then we get to a counter trap card called Branded Condemnation. 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 Whatever. I don't know how. Whatever. It's a counter trap. Very cool artwork. It has the Iris Sword Soul on there. You can only use the first and second effects of this card once per turn and only once that turn. So the same thing. You can only use one of the effects per turn. The first effect reads, when a spell or trap card or monster effect is activated that includes an effect that special summons a monster or monsters. Interesting, a little more specific there. Return a fusion monster or monsters that lists Fallen of Albaz as material to the extra deck. 1 you control or 2 from your grave. So if you're doing it from your field, you can return 1 and make this happen. But if you have you can also choose to do any 2 in grave to also set this up. Okay, interesting. And if you do, negate the activation, and if you do, destroy that card. Second effect, you can banish this card from your graveyard to target a branded spell and trap in grave except for itself and add it to your hand. That's pretty good. It's a little more easily set upable over the Branded Blade graveyard effect, right? Doesn't have to be banished. I don't know how easily the deck actually banishes its cards. But not bad. I mean, I think my problems with this card is 1, it only negates effects that include an effect that special summons a monster, but it is like any effect. So whether it's a Sword Soul monster summoning a token, a Sword Soul spell or trap summoning a token, their Monster Reborn card, right? Or Flunderee's monsters triggering to get an additional normal summon. Oh, I'm sorry, it's only an effect that special summons a monster, so the Flunderee's ones don't matter. But a lot of archetypes will have some effect that wants to special summon. The only problem is going second, this card is not very good. It's just not going to come up as much if they have established boards. It's going to come up more so if you get to go first and set it up. And that's the other thing, is how easy is it really to set this up? I mean, just to even use this card, you're going to have to fling a fusion you control that has Albaz as material back into the deck, or you're going to have to send 2 from grave. And I don't know how quickly this deck's going to be able to set up 2 Albaz fusions into your graveyard. So kind of some problems there, just in terms of setup, getting the fusions required into position, as well as the fact that it only negates cards that special summon other monsters. Kind of makes it a little less generically good, but we'll see. It's still a searchable branded counter trap that still could be worth it in certain situations, maybe a one of in decks, and also like the recursion effect is generically going to be good in the deck. So yeah, we'll see. Next up here we have our Mirror Jade, the Ice Blade Dragon. Crazy name, crazy artwork. I believe he is one of the guys on the cover for the structure deck. Very, very cool looking. He is a level 8 Dark Worm fusion effect monster, 3,000 attack, 2,500 defense. His materials take, of course, 1 Fallen of Albaz, plus any fusion, synchro, exceed, or link monster. That's pretty crazy. So now we get another like super poly adjacent card for Albaz. Of course, Albaz functions as like kind of like a non-spell speed 4 super poly. But this gives us another tool that, like, it doesn't matter the stats of the monster, doesn't matter anything. It just matters that it's one of these types, which is pretty much any extra deck type monster. So very, very cool. It gives you a potential out to certain things. Very nice. You can only control 1 Mirror Jade, the Ice Blade Dragon. That's fine, whatever. Second effect says, once per turn as a quick effect, you can send 1 fusion monster that lists Fallen of Albaz as material from your extra deck to the graveyard as cost. Then banish 1 monster from on the field, but this effect cannot be used again next turn. Woo! Okay. Okay. We'll come back to that in a sec. Third effect says, if this face-up fusion summoned card you control leaves the field by your opponent, so either by battle or by their card effect, you can activate this effect, destroy all monsters they control during the end phase of this turn. Okay. All right. This card is kind of nasty. First and foremost, like the first effect, whatever, like you can only control 1, that makes perfect sense. The second effect is also really crazy. So I love it that like you're sending any fusion, Fallen of Albaz fusion, straight from extra deck as cost. So even if this effect gets negated, you still are like setting up for follow-up later on. Really, really cool. And then the, of course, on the resolution, a non-targeting banish any monster on the field. And the only drawback is you can't use it again next turn. That's not the hugest deal. The biggest deal is that it's going to be available for your opponent's turn as a very powerful interruption. And then you don't usually need to use it again on your next turn. And then it's going to be alive again on the following turn, especially since you're going to be getting follow-up by the dump of a Fallen of Albaz fusion anyway. Very, very cool. And then of course the last effect, that's a nasty float effect. I mean, this gives me like Avermax vibes, but even like stronger, right? If they remove it by any means, right? Then you're going to put them in a position where like, okay, I played through it, but now what do I want to set up? Because if I do, I just get my board wiped on the end phase. That's not so good. So unless they're going into something specific like Destroy Phoenix Enforcer or Dragoon that like is going to have its own protection, they're going to be in trouble against this card. So very, very cool. I think this card's nasty. I definitely can't wait to see what people can do to make use of this card. And then the last card we have here today is another fusion called Rebellion, the Divine Flame Dragon. So I guess this one's ice, this one's fire. They both look amazing. I love the artwork on them. This is a level 8 light dragon fusion effect monster, 2,500 attack, 3,000 defense. It takes any dark monster plus a Fallen of Albaz. You can only use this effect of this card's name once per turn. So only 1 effect on this guy. If this card is fusion summoned, you can discard 1 card as cost to fusion summon a level 8 or lower fusion monster from your extra deck except for himself. By shuffling fusion materials listed on it into the deck from among your cards on the field, in your graveyard, and or your face-up banished cards. But for the rest of this turn, this card cannot attack. Also, you cannot special summon monsters from the extra deck except for fusion monsters. So essentially, if you can fusion summon this guy, he will then allow you to fusion summon again, but he lets you use stuff in grave and face-up banish. So if you were going to fuse anyway, like you use Fallen of Albaz to like do a turn 1 fuse just with your stuff, or even with your opponent's stuff, right? You would get to get this guy for free just as an extra like big body, and then he summons you another one just by shuffling stuff from your grave field or banish zone, which is actually pretty nice. You just get, essentially you're just doing the regular fusion, but you just also get this guy at the cost of what? Locking yourself into fusions for the rest of the turn. This guy can't attack for the rest of the turn, but like usually I would imagine you're doing this turn 1 or on your opponent's turn potentially with a quick Fallen of Albaz play. Not bad. Definitely not bad. I don't think so. So very, very cool. I think this card still could have a place just to get like that extra big body on the field to help you just have a bigger push, have an extra body to use with the Albaz, because maybe if you're not summoning this guy, you could use this guy and like a later on Albaz to get to this guy, because he seems to be your best boss monster overall. But very interesting. I think the traps kind of fall a little short to me. Like this one's a little bit passive overall. It's recursion plus summoning tokens by needing setup in the grave already. And then this card just like needing fusions, like multiple fusions set up or giving up one on field, as well as only negating effects that special summon. Seems a little bit like specific. It could have just been a generic negate and I would have been way more about it, but unfortunately kind of missed there. I think this is the one card that's like a bomb. This card is huge. This card is amazing. Cannot wait to see if people make use of this. And then this card is decent, but he like doesn't actively do anything. He kind of just lets you, on top of the fusion summon you would have done, also end with his big body on the field. That's really what he sets up for me. But, you know, there's other things too, I guess. Like, I guess if you were trying to get to this guy, but you didn't already have any extra deck monsters set up, you could summon this guy first with an Albaz and a Dark to then use the Albaz and himself to make this card. So I guess he does make it a little bit easier to get to this guy. And if he's your bomb card, then I guess this card could be pretty important. So very cool. A lot of cool stuff going on here. I cannot wait to see what people come up with the Albaz stuff. I think there's some very interesting cards here. I just don't really know just yet how it all is going to function together, and what kind of builds people are going to have to spice up to make it happen. But still very excited to see that. The structure deck looks really cool. I'm definitely excited to pick it up. Thank you so much for watching as always. Let me know in the comment section down below your thoughts on the new cards. Am I missing something? Are these like better than I think, but some of the traps are like a little too specific / need a little too much setup, where it feels like your deck has to be like popping off already for them to ever be good? Let me know down below. I'm excited to hear your thoughts there. But that's going to do it for me here today, guys. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you in the next video. Peace.